Following N'golo Kante's virtuoso performances in the Champions League semi-finals against Real Madrid for Chelsea, and also in the finals against Manchester City, the debate raged on Twitter over the last few days over who the best defensive midfielder in the world is. So the question is N'golo Kante the best defensive midfielder in the world? Or the debate even raged further. Is he the best defensive midfielder we've ever seen? That's the question. In my opinion, I waded into the debate, and this is my opinion, and it might be different from what everyone else thinks. It might be different from what you think. It might be different from what Mr. ABC thinks. And in my opinion, N'golo Kante is the best defensive midfielder I've ever seen. Yeah, wait a minute. Hang on before you attack me. This is not about, I said to somebody recently that a lot of people forget about football in the last, say, 20 years or 25 years ago, and the players of now are regarded as the best in everything. For instance, some people say Virgil van Dijk is the best centre-back ever. And I always say to those people, you people have got a disease called moderningitis. Basically, everything modern, everything new seems to be the best. So don't accuse me of the same thing this time around. The role of DM is quite different from the way some teams employed it before. Over on Twitter today, rather, or the last few days, some people have said it's Roy Keane, some have said it's Vieira. Funny enough, I don't actually consider those two as DMs. Why? Okay. The reason why I don't consider those two as DMs is because primarily they didn't just defend. Their job, they were central midfielders. I remember Vieira playing in central midfield with Petit, and they had two wide men. There was no DM. Vieira was not a holding midfielder who just sat and broke up play. Vieira could defend, he could tackle, he could get about the pitch, and he could attack. He could head the ball, he could shoot, he could be a man. Are you getting the drift? Roy Keane was a box-to-box player. Scholes stays, he goes. He goes, Scholes stays. Though more often than not, he stayed more than Paul Scholes, but that didn't make him a DM. So DMs are those that sit in front of the back four, take the ball off the back four, set up play, break things up obviously, set up play, and then they just hold. Fernandinho. It's not like they can't play, it's not like they can't shoot. But you hardly find them on the right wing, for instance. They just sit. The modern day holding midfielders, Fernandinho, Fabinho, Casemiro, Declan Rice, they just stay there and protect their back four. Roy Keane was not someone who just stayed and protected the back four. Same thing with Patrick Vieira. They didn't just stay and protect the back four. Sergio Busquets stayed, protects the back four, gets the ball off them, gives it to Xavi and Iniesta. They play and he holds. Does that make a bit of sense now? N'golo Kante is a DM. He's similar to Roy Keane in the sense that he carries the ball forward as well. But you don't see him scoring goals. I know he scored, so before anyone attacks me, I'm not saying he's never scored a goal. But you'll never see him bursting into the box. Hardly, rather, not never. You hardly see him bursting into the box. You hardly see him getting on the end of crosses, like trying to head the ball for a goal. There was one in the final against Manchester City. But more often than not, you don't see him there. Do you understand what I'm saying now? More often than not, N'golo Kante will not be on the end of a who are the Chelsea wingers again? Say Mount's cross or Pulisic's cross. But the difference was Roy Keane could be at the end of a Ryan Giggs cross. Make sense? Patrick Vieira could be at the end of a Pires pass or cross trying to head the ball into the net. So that's why I don't consider those two as DMs. I've put a list of DMs down that I can say they were DMs and they're still DMs, and I've got a list of 5. I don't know who you think is the best. It all depends on opinions. My opinion is N'golo Kante is the best I've ever seen. He's the only one who could obviously take the ball off the back four and pass, move. Jorginho does it for Chelsea, but Jorginho hasn't got legs. He can't get about the pitch. N'golo Kante can. Sergio Busquets can't get about the pitch. N'golo Kante can. Or N'golo Kante, as some people say. That's correct pronunciation now. So basically what I'm saying is N'golo Kante is the closest to like a Vieira or Roy Keane, in the sense that he has the attributes, even though, as I said, he doesn't get on the end of crosses or trying to head balls or trying to score goals and stuff. Is a cross between them and a cross between a Busquets, for example. So for me, Roy Keane, Vieira are central midfielders. They're not defensive midfielders. So my DMs, the best 5 I've seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of DMs. I've seen quite a bit of football in my time. And the younger folks might not exactly agree with some of my selections. They might think they've seen better. But the ones I've seen in my time, I've got Sergio Busquets of Barcelona and Spain. N'golo Kante, who we've mentioned, France, played for Leicester City and Chelsea. We've got Frank Rijkaard, who played for the Netherlands. He played for Barcelona. Claude Makelele, who played for Real Madrid, made his name at Real Madrid before he joined Chelsea Football Club. Edgar Davids played for Ajax, played for Juve, and Holland, of course. Diego Simeone, the current Atletico Madrid manager, who played for Atletico Madrid and Argentina, and the great Fernando Redondo. He was a baller. He was skillful, hella skillful. He played for Real Madrid and Argentina. So that's my top 7 of all time. I didn't include Lothar Matthäus because Matthäus, I would say, it was a sweeper. He played in front of a back 3. So it's kind of, or behind the back 3 rather, not in front. What am I even talking about? So it's quite different in the sense that he wasn't a defensive midfielder per se. So I've listed 5. I wouldn't say of all time because I don't know. I didn't watch the DMs in the 60s and 70s. I started watching football in 80s. I'm not that old, but I started watching football in the 80s. So basically, those are my 7. Redondo, Fernando Redondo, Diego Simeone, Edgar Davids, Claude Makelele, Frank Rijkaard, N'golo Kante, and Sergio Busquets. Who is your favorite? So those are the ones I've watched. So for instance, there were some that played maybe early 80s or late 70s that I didn't watch, and I don't even know some of them. I don't like to argue about players I didn't watch. I don't like to say, oh, Pelé is the greatest of all time. That's what the record says. Did I watch Pelé? No. Did I see clips on YouTube and documentaries? Yes. But that doesn't mean I watched him. Let me tell you a quick story. When I still lived in Manchester about 13 years ago, and 13, 14 years ago, and I was in a pub. I'm in my 40s, and these were guys that were like, say, 15, 20 years older than me, maybe in their 60s then. Oh no, maybe their 50s then, or 50, whatever, anyway. So we're talking about footballers of then, and it was, we're talking about Eusebio, George Best, and of course I didn't see George Best. I know George Best is a Man United legend. I've seen clips of his game. I've watched the 1968 European Cup final, the whole final, when he played at Wembley, and it was a genius, George Best, and it was something special. So I've seen some clips, I've seen a few games, but I didn't watch George Best. Do you understand what I mean? And Eusebio, of course, played in the same match against George Best. Played in the same match against George Best, and he was phenomenal. He was highest goal scorer in Europe, like Pichichi. No, not Pichichi is used in Spain. He was highest goal scorer in European football for, I think, 9 years in a row, something like that. So basically, I was trying to argue with these men. And I said, no, Georgie Best is this. Oh, well, right. And they're like, did you watch Best? I'm like, yeah, I've seen documentaries. I've seen 1960 European Cup final. And did you watch UCB? I said, yeah, I saw him in that same final. And I've watched a few highlights on YouTube. So they just turned around. We were together, so they were not strangers to me. I think we're getting ready to watch a football game. I think it was West Ham against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Then in 2008, October 2008, if I remember to be precise, where Berbatov did that magic skill and passed to Ronaldo. So, where did I stop? Okay. So we're talking about Eusebio, Georgie Bears, blah, blah, blah. And they bought me a beer and told me to turn away. Don't interrupt us. You didn't watch either of them. You're not in this conversation. So, do you get what I'm saying? It'd be like people telling me, a 21-year-old was telling me earlier today, oh, he watched Roy Keane. I'm like, oh, really? He left United when you were 5 or 6. How did you watch him? Said, oh, YouTube and a few clips. You didn't watch him, mate. You've just seen clips of him. So, these are the ones I've watched. Redondo, Simeone, Edgar Davids, Makelele, Frank Rijkaard, N'golo Kante, and Sergio Busquets. In terms of using the ball, Busquets is probably my favorite. But in terms of using the ball, running, closing your man down, passing the ball, being like omnipresent, being 5-in-1. It's like when N'golo Kante plays for your side, it's like you've got a man advantage. Sometimes a 2-man advantage. It's ridiculous. So I call him the redoubtable, omnipresent N'golo Kante, and I think he's the best defensive midfielder of all time. But that's my opinion. It depends on what you think. You don't have to agree with me. Disagreeing with me doesn't mean you're wrong. Except if you tell me, for instance, Fred is the best defensive midfielder you've ever seen, and I'll tell you, okay, I'll push you aside and buy you a beer like the men did the other time for me in a pub in central Manchester. So, who is your best defensive midfielder? I mean, you couldn't even name someone else not on this list. But these are my favorite 7, and that's my opinion. And I think N'Golo is the best of the lot. Tell me what you think. Put your comments below on this video. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. Peace out.